harvest the rest of my beets today, and I went ahead and harvest all of them, and I'm going to try an experiment. I wanted to try to can. I've never canned, so I thought I would do an experiment with the rest of these beets. Some of these have gotten pretty large, so I'm not sure how well that will be, but I thought this would be a good time to experiment. I'm going to make a beet and cabbage relish. So we'll see how it goes. We'll get these boiling. They'll probably boil for another 45 minutes. Well, they're not boiling yet, but get them boiling and cook for about an hour, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, I have my beets. They've all been boiled, and I am now getting ready to chop up the other ingredients, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so in this bowl I have 1 quart or 4 cups of chopped cabbage and 1 cup of chopped onions, and the recipe also calls for 1 cup of sweet bell pepper, red bell pepper. After I add the bell pepper to this, then I'll cut up the beets, and the recipe calls for 1 quart of beets. Okay, so the recipe calls for 1 quart of chopped beets. I've got about 2 cups. Oops, I hit the camera. Getting close to about 2 cups. So I will bring you back when I get 1 quart. Okay, I have all the ingredients cut up and in this bowl, but I still have to add the horseradish, the salt, the vinegar, and my question is, what do you do when you don't have enough burners? I still need to, I have in this, let me bring you over here. In this pot right here, I have the jars warming. This pot is where I'm going to cook the ingredients. This is the canner, and I need to put the lids here. So I have all 4 burners going at the same time, so we'll see what happens. In reading the ball book, it said to keep the lids at 180 degrees for 10 minutes. Since I've never done this before, I am actually using a thermometer and trying to determine on my range what number. I don't have medium, high, and all that. I just have numbers 1 through 10 and high. So right now these lids are a little bit over. They're about 185, 190. So I'm bringing I don't want it to boil, so I'm bringing the temperature down so it won't boil. And also my canner, I'm using a thermometer in there to see what temperature we have. It's about 180. Right now it's about 170. So, and my jars, they are about 150. so I need to turn it up on my jars a little bit. And I just now started cooking my, let me show you. It said to put this in a small saucepan, but this was not going to fit in a saucepan, so to bring this, simmer this for about 10 minutes and then bring it to a boil. Okay, I'm filling my jars. And this says, this recipe is a half inch head space. I got this nice little funnel that tells you quarter, half, 3/4. Well, beets are definitely messy. Red everywhere. Wipe off the rim with a damp cloth. That will allow your lids to seal better, or seal. Just hand tight, put it in the canner. Get another jar. Fill the jar. Now, this one I overfilled, so this is, what do you do when you overfill? I'm assuming you take some out, so. Just take a little bit. I want to knock this jar over. This is to remove any bubbles or any air. Check my headspace again. Ooh. Knock it over. I definitely got this one messy. So be sure, this is the part that I'm always afraid I'm going to forget. Just to clean off the rim. Put on a lid. Okay, I've got all the jars in the canner, and when it starts, I'm going to put the lid on here in a minute. When it starts boiling, then I will process it for, I think it said 20 minutes. So, clean up my mess over here. And get ready for the jars to come out for the night. Pretty much used every bit of it. Filled every jar. It filled 10 jars, just like the recipe said. So I'm using the recipe out of the Bob Blue Book, Guide to Preserving. I actually read all the introduction and everything there is to know about canning in this book yesterday. I want to say that it is very important because the book gives you a processing time, and this is a recipe I'm using, and this is a processing time of 15 minutes. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see. focus, but it says a processing time. But this is based on 1,000 foot above sea level. So when you read the fine print at the beginning of the book, it tells you about, when you read about the fine print in the beginning of the book, it tells you that you have to adjust due to altitude. So I have to add another 5 minutes to my processing time. I also want to mention that the Ball Blue book said that the processing time begins once, if I understand it correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your processing time doesn't start until the water's boiling. So it is still not boiling yet, so when it starts boiling, then I will give it 20 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, I've let it cool for about 5 minutes and take the jars out. Oh, that looks good. These were processed for 20 minutes. Looks really good. Already heard one pop. Or I think I did. Well, this is definitely a process. Had to cook the beets first and then cook the mixture. Did you hear that one pop? Heard one pop. So these will sit here till tomorrow. Oh, I'm hearing them pop. I won't touch them until tomorrow and we'll see what happens.